Canto 32. When one would imagine a frozen lake, one might picture a glassy black surface, ideal for ice skating with friends on a crisp winter afternoon. One might imagine a town hockey game, or perhaps a shack where a few would gather to fish ice fish. This was not that lake. From their vantage, it looked like the water had frozen in small waves, creating choppy bumps all over the surface. It was only as they approached the lake itself that Cal realized it was not waves at all, but actual heads sticking out of the ice. "Watch your step," Sophie warned. Cal scowled. "Can't just be a frozen lake. Of course it has to have people frozen into it. What did these people do? Why is this frozen wasteland their punishment?" "This is all I can tell you," Sophie said with a note of caution in her voice. "This is Trader's Lake. It's where people get stuck who have real relationships and intentionally betrayed that relationship. Please remember, we are walking towards the ultimate test." This last statement held the most caution. Cal continued to scowl, but carefully began walking between the bowed heads. It was thinking about how their bowed heads made it look like they were in prayer that caused him to stop and ask one about their pose. "Why are you praying?" "No," the person said. "Leave me alone." "Cal," Sophie said in a warning. "Just tell me," Cal continued. The head said nothing. Maybe he could sweeten the deal. "I'll tell your story when I get out." "I don't want to be known," he responded. A voice not far away, but familiar, spoke. "That's Cain who killed Abel. Over there is Mordred, nephew to King Arthur. And if you look hard enough, you might even find Prince John, who was undone by Robin Hood. Quite a fox, that one." "Cal," Sophie said with the most warning. But Cal, having heard the voice, gave her a moment's attention before he walked to the head. The tone and tenor of his words made his blood boil. It was the voice of his grandfather. "How dare you?" Cal spat, kicking the head when he was close enough to it. The head yelped. Cal kicked again. "You have no right to say anything to me." "Stop," the grandfather begged. "Isn't this place punishment enough? You kick like the living," he moaned. "That's because I am living, Grandpa," Cal yelled, kicking again. "Impossible," he yelled. "Look at me," Cal shrieked. "No," he bawled back. "Look at me." Cal grabbed his grandfather by the hair and pulled up. What he wanted was the pain of his hair being pulled to drag his head up with him. Instead, he ended up yanking the hair out of his head. Disgusted, he dropped the hair and grabbed another handful. "I'll make you bald. Look at me." His grandpa looked up. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. He still was crying when his head raised, but now the tears had nowhere to go, so as quickly as his head was up, the tears froze to his face, blinding him. Cal let go. "Of course you can't see me." He turned around and pinched the bridge of his nose. "I just want to be angry right now." A cold chill ran through him, causing him to shiver. "Tell him and let's move on," Sophie calmly suggested. Hearing her so calm made him realize just how angry he was. "It might help you both." Cal turned to Sophie. "What if I don't want to help him? He didn't help me." His body felt cold to the bone. He pathetically wrapped his arms around himself, but he knew it wouldn't help. Calmly and with purpose, Sophie spoke. "This is the convention hall, but instead of hoarding whatever it was that you were hoarding, you're withholding love." Cal pointed down to his grandfather accusingly. He took my life and my dreams. He didn't love me. Why should I love him? He doesn't deserve it. A chill so intense ran down his back, he fell to his knees, and in doing so, saw the acres upon acres of faces. The ones closest to him were bowed down, but the ones closer to the center had their heads forced up. And looking up, he could briefly see a shaft of light, much like the kind found in the ceiling entrance to a cave. Then it went black. Bringing his hands to his face, Cal realized he had been crying, and his tears had frozen his own eyes shut. He dropped his head again. What a fool he was. There was no winning the fights Cal wanted to fight. As his quiet tears grew into verbal sobs, his eyes opened back up. From his dropped position, Cal admitted to Sophie. The convention hall was a Comic-Con. Do you know what those are? From beside him, his grandfather quipped. It's where sissies play dress-up and pretend to be cartoons. Cal thought for a moment of a biting comeback, but rather defeated, he just said, Sure. Then he stood and faced Sophie, who looked far more concerned than he was expecting. Her concern actually reassured him more than worried him. So he explained. Cons are where you meet your favorite television or movie star. You can make your own costumes to emulate them and hang out with people who do the same. I have an unfinished costume at home that I keep upgrading, and when I was in that level of hell, I realized it wasn't important. Maintaining her concern, Sophie asked, And what is this level doing? Cal thought, staring at his grandfather's head. I'm leaving here. He's not. But when he does, he'll be better for it. So was he. He was better too. Even as a breather, the whole of hell had helped him. It was good and right to tell his grandfather how he felt. So taking a deep breath, Cal began. Grandpa, you stole my life. You took my dreams so you could keep living your own. I'm going to be spending the next few years just trying to find myself again. I forgive you, but I'm not sure what that means yet. Real forgiveness is going to take years. Now he was cold, but not bone-chillingly cold. He looked down at the watch. Almost there. Sophie nodded. Bye, Grandpa. His grandfather said nothing in return.